And we would go back into his trailer, and I remember he would give me sips of beers, and he would give me a lot of hugs and a lot of attention. I was only 7 years old, and my father wasn't around much, and, I just really ate it up. And I think he knew that I was going to be an easy mark for him. So that ended up becoming a violent rape when I was 7 years old, which pretty much ruined me for life, it felt like. From that point on, I just became a very angry person, a very angry child. I was a runaway from the time I was 12 to the time that I was 15. So while I was on the streets, I did what you do on the streets to survive. You have what they call survival sex, where you have sex with someone so you have a safe place to sleep and that type of thing. I began to experiment with pain during sex. And, bondage and sadomasochism. And for me, it was a very slippery slope. It went from just like your run-of-the-mill kinkiness to really trying to discover something about pain during sex, and I would be all into it, the whips, the chains, and all of those things. And I really became part of that subculture. I began to get involved with witchcraft. I got involved with a group of friends, and some of them were pagan, and I really got into it, and I liked it. And I read books, and I began to try to cast spells, and I became very suicidal. And then I became a very angry atheist. And I didn't not just believe in Jesus. I hated Jesus Christ, and I hated the Christian religion, and I hated the entire establishment of the Christian religion. And I just became very bitter, and not because I thought it was God's fault all that happened to me. I just didn't believe in God at all. Like, I thought Jesus was the king of the Cartoon Network. I mean, I bitterly hated Christians. I thought they were just so stupid. And me and my friends would sit around and snicker and laugh and make jokes. And I remember sitting at coffee shops, and the street witnesses would come up and try to witness to me, and I would just get into screaming matches with them. They didn't scream. I did, though. I was so angry. I remember very clearly going, I can't live another 20 years. If the next 20 years were like the first 20 years, I don't want it. I just want peace. I just want death, even if it's nothing, even if it's blackness and oblivion. My mom and I had not been speaking for quite some time, and I tried to mend that relationship because I missed her. So I wrote her a letter, and she said, why don't you come over for dinner? And I came over there for dinner, and she was just full of just love and light, and so was my sister. They were just full of so much happiness and joy, and there are all these people over at their house, these young people, and my family is not like outwardly hospitable. Like if something had changed, and my mom had started going to this church. And it was this very Christ-based church called Set Free that, I don't know, apparently they met Jesus and they knew I hated Jesus. So they told everyone in the house and all the people that came over, don't talk to her about God. Like, she'll just get hostile. Like, you can't just come right up to her and witness to her. Me and my mom started building a relationship, and very quickly, about a week and a half, they went off to a Wednesday night service, and I was like, yeah, I'll go. But I felt profane walking in there, and I was almost certain that there were like Christians on walkie-talkies, like, we have an unbeliever in the room, and they were going to come at me and throw scripture at me, but that's not what happened. In reality, my mom had been telling all of her friends at church about me, and they had been praying for me for weeks. And one Wednesday night, there was a little girl playing on the pews behind her parents. Little girl, long blonde hair, and about 7 years old. And I was instantly back to when I was 7 years old. And I saw that little girl, and I saw how happy she was, and her parents were standing up with their hands in the air, and they were praising the Lord. And she was playing behind them. I just saw how happy she was. And it made me think about when I was 7. I used to hide in the closet. I was terrified at 7. God began to talk to me in that moment. And what he said was, if I'm real, then everything I make is beautiful. And everything I make is whole. And I thought, I haven't felt whole my whole life. There was a big sign behind the band that said "Set Free." And I looked at that and I got it. I said, I need to be set free. And I just started crying. I started crying and crying and crying. And I realized that God was real, that He had just spoken to me. And it was through all that hate and anger and darkness, God spoke to my heart when nothing else could get to me. I was high on Jesus for a long time. Still kind of am. But I lost all of my friends that I was hanging out with. You know, I had lots of friends. I used to go to clubs and coffee shops and, you know, all my angry atheist friends. Prior to that, I've been like the ringleader on bashing the Christians, and suddenly I give my heart to Jesus night and day. It was a night and day difference. But I knew that that was all right, that I had Jesus Christ, and nothing in this world could compare to that.
How great the love of Jesus Christ. Upon the cross of Calvary, the blood was shed that pardons me. No longer bound, no